Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. We're out catching up, cleaning up in the shop, and we're finishing up our DRPD Warehouse Sale stuff, right? Finally getting to do that, and what we have this time is from Koken. So, very excited about this one because there's an item that I need to get to work so I can start using it and enjoying it. But, what we're going to do is check the text messages that came in right on cue. Let's see here. La la la. Cool. We'll deal with that later. And what we're going to do is throw down this, that, and this. And yes, these could serve as spoilers. Are these the items in question? No. So what are these items? Well, let's start with the smallest one. This is a 1/4 inch Koken Zeal. Obviously, this is the flex head. This one was used considerably. You'll recall my complaints on these is just the daintiness. Totally get it. It's advantageous. It can save you. Compact nature's good. Yeah, but at the same time, like, it's just, you know, cheerio. It's very, very small. I have used them though. This one came in, I think, a little bit later. The quick release, obviously the longer pattern. I was sort of like, whoa, that is tiny. So I went this route. You can see the nastiness on the anvil there. So this one, even though it's newer, has way more use than this guy because, again, it's sort of easier to offset. It has nothing to do with quick release. I was just used to not an option, and so I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this out on a few of them. But yeah, both of these actually they're fantastic ratchets. It's just a situation where they are tiny, 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 tiny little things. Speaking of tiny, though, I complain about that, and then we have this right here. It's even smaller, however, it's a little beefier, right? You got a little more heft there. This is a Koken 3/8 drive. This little guy has actually come in handy. I got this mistakenly in an order. They like sent the wrong part number. This, I think, might have been my very first order with Koken, and boy, I tell you, I have no complaints there. This goes back that far, and it is 36 tooth. You would never know. 36 tooth, a lot of you are very, very familiar with that. It's, think, 3/4 drive, a lot of your 1/2 inch old school industrial stuff. Very, very robust. Not the greatest return angles, right? Not the, you know, finest back drag in the world, but just stalwart. And this takes that and just slaps it in the face 180 degrees because it is, if you've never used one of these, you would have a hard time telling the difference between the 36 tooth and the 72 tooth. Now, keep in mind, that is nothing I ordered. It was just mistakenly sent to me, and they were cool and let me keep it. So, now that I have introduced that stuff to you, I can shimmy to the side and introduce these two items. So, what we're going to get started with is a Koken 2725Z-160. This thing was $79.05 before any discount, and I want to say there was a Koken sale plus the warehouse sale, and so I don't exactly know what we paid, but I know it was a pretty solid deal. If I drop the box down, you can kind of get a feel for this, right? And again, if you know Koken's part numbers, you already know. If you didn't know, you've got a pretty good feel based on one chunky little box there. I feel like this has gotten misadjusted somehow. The camera, the focus isn't as good as it was, but right there, just take my word for it. 2725Z, 160, and then 72T. This is 1/4 drive. And you're thinking like, okay, did you complain and they made like a bigger handle for you? Well, that would have been super cool. I think that goes against the Zeal concept, unfortunately, but I've got this. And what this is a standard 1/4 drive, 160 length, right? So it's the biggest you can get in 1/4 drive currently from Koken. It is a fixed head. I thought I'd put a quick release on there. I guess I did not, but I thought that's what I'd done. I've kind of when I've come back and bought their fixed heads, everything I had from Koken for so long, minus this error that they sent out by mistake, was a flex head. I have zero complaints there. The half-inch, of course, there is no flex head currently, so I kind of came in and I was like, well, maybe I should get fixed heads. They're fantastic ratchets, and then you justify it because you have so many freaking sockets. So right here is the quarter drive long, and it is not a quick release like I kind of thought I'd done. Maybe it was out of stock. Maybe this was a little bit cheaper enough where I was like, oh, screw it. It'll be fine. But very solid selector switch there, surprisingly solid. Here we go. These are just such good ratchets, and again, the price, you're not paying like premium Snap-on Matco top tier prices for something that arguably outperforms them. You're getting it for fractionally less, and that's why we have so many of them, right? But this is basically the long flex head minus the flex head. Again, it's still dainty. It's still kind of cumbersome to use for long periods. You are still at a point where you could generate enough leverage to shear off your tiny quarter drive fasteners. That said, a lot of what I do, and one of the reasons you see me buy like the 9-inch Max and stuff, and ooh, I really like this, it's because I'm not running, you know, like tiny 3/16 stuff. I'm over here, I'm like 7/16, half, 9/16. That's kind of like the bread and butter there, and it's honestly just a situation where the profile of the socket clearances some things, and then I need basically a standard length 3/8, right, would be ideal to break things free sometimes, especially when they're painted and seized up. But with a longer, granted this isn't anywhere near 9, but the longer pattern on the quarter drive comes in handy there, and it's literally used for a situation like that. So if I come in here, we have got a 7/16. You can see it there, pairs beautifully. Again, just stupid good right out of the box. You cannot complain. Again, with this price before discounts, you really can't complain. But this is kind of what I'm talking about. The 7/16 deep would be better because I use it more, but the fitment is fantastic. To have that much play at the end of a deep socket says a lot. Very, very tight up here. However, when you step up to half or 3/8, you have just a bigger socket body, right? So this profile of the quarter drive socketry sometimes is the difference, and it is why Mr. 3/8, again, that's my personal preference, especially here at the house at work, it's kind of half-inch, but you know, here, when I drop down to quarter, when I do it at work, it's because the profile of the socket sort of necessitates it. You know, if you're walking around and you're sort of balling on a budget and you got some fat proto or right impact sockets, they're fantastic. They're going to last you a long time. The limitation, the downside, you don't access certain places, right? It's just physically, you know, you've got a hole this size and your right is hitting here. Your proto is hitting here, and then you come into your chromie and boom, your 3/8 almost goes down, but it doesn't, so you have to drop down to the quarter, and then boom, you can get your access. That's why people like me have quarter. Again, of course, the smaller sizes, absolutely, but again, thinking 7/16, half, 9/16, that covers quarter, 5/16, 3/8 hardware, that's the honey hole for me. Some of you may be the same way, even if it's in metric. It might be a situation where you're, you know, 6, 7, 8, 10 type of a thing. You'd like to use 3/8, but it's just, dadgum, the socket's too fat. Boom, you drop down to quarter and you've got it. This basically brings us up to a 3/8 standard length, in my opinion. So would I like a longer Koken? I certainly would. I would be very interested in that. Again, I don't quite know what I was doing buying the fixed head there, because what I'd sort of done, in part because of the half-inch research, we did the quick release, and then I'm pretty confident on my 3/8 fixed head I did quick release, and so yeah. But I will also say this is a very, very experimental ratchet, and that very well could be my thought process, is this is going to be the sacrificial mule for some insidiously crafted plan I have. More on that later, but maybe that's what I was doing. I was just like cheaping out and saving $5. It's not that much more money with Koken if you want the quick release. Now sometimes if there's like a sale on certain items, you might be shooting yourself in the foot, but in general it's kind of like some of the German companies when you go from like the kind of crappy handle to the 2-component if you prefer it better. Like, you're not paying like $20 more. Sometimes it's like $2, you know. So even if you see something over here and you're like, man, that's a great deal, always check your 2 components, because it might not be the $10, $15, $20 extra you're thinking. It's one of those things I've learned over time. But this really does. I've got some plans. And what is my one complaint that I always say about this ratchet, that ratchet, and that ratchet? The daintiness, right? Maybe, just maybe, that's a clue as to what I have in mind there. But for now, it's going to be cool because we've got a fixed head in 1/4, 3/8, and half. And again, the Koken cart was just begging for it over there. And who am I to deny? So we made that happen. Now, back to this. You're thinking like, okay, well, what does this have to do? You know, it's like half the size of that, about the same size as that, a little beefier. You're going to tell me you can like swap the heads over? I don't know. I've never tried. I am going to tell you that we have another item, which I couldn't find until just now. And it is 3725Z SB, and then there's technically a 72T there. It's 3H drive, and when we come in and we find this sucker before any discount, this was $59.70. This is less money than that guy at $79. And you're thinking like, whoa, hey, you got a Koken Ratchet Z Series 72 tooth for $60? Do tell. Well, let me do just that for you. Boom, right here. You're thinking like, hey, that looks a lot like this guy. And yeah, it is. You're going to see one glaring difference right off the bat, and that is something's missing here that's present here, and it is a quick release, right? Pretty stiff button on this guy, I must say. Not that that's a bad thing. Selector switch, a little stiffer than this guy, just probably because it's box stock, brand new. But yeah, this is basically the same thing. It is going to be an act of Congress, meaning it's probably not going to happen for me to showcase this. That's a 3725. And geez, I can't really even tell through there. I think it's a ZS. And this one is a 3725 ZSB. The B is, of course, going to be for the button, the quick release button. But I do believe, as best I recall, this was a 36 tooth. And this is 72. Now, I want you to look at this. Right here, what I have is just a standard Koken 3H drive shallow 9/16. And I can come in here again. I so wish this was available in the 9/16, but it's not. And you're thinking like, well, what is this thing? It looks beautiful. This is a Koken Z Series socket, all right? And this would work better if I used the button, wouldn't it? You get so used to not having it. This is the Z Series, so superior fitment all across the board, crazy tight fitment on the fastener. Not necessarily something you want to get if you're dealing with corroded fasteners, for something greased and gunked and dirted and salted and rusted, and you get the idea. Clean, sanitary stuff, brand new assemblies. If you're working on something that's been in service but, you know, not subjected to a hard life, nothing's corroded or rusted or anything like that, no reactions in the metals of the fasteners, these are still viable. What you're getting beneficial-wise with the Z Series, totally redefined from their standard. This is, again, the Z Series 3/8. And if you're thinking like, hey, why would I have this stubby ratchet? You'd have this stubby ratchet for tight access places. Where this one kind of won me over, I was like, I'm never going to use that thing. It was the no. What was it? Was it the bracket? It might have been 2 bolts on the bracket for the crank position sensor on 5.2 and 5.9 Magnums. Outside of the truck, you don't need this. Inside the truck, oh my. Let me tell you. The way everything is fixed, you know, with the engine being on the frame and then the body being sat down on top of it, this thing won me over. It's really, I was thinking like, oh man, I'm never going to use that. It's kind of cool and novelty, but I don't think I'm a stubby guy. It won me over in that situation. It was something that this did very well that my other ratchets could not do. This socket here, pairing your Z Series stuff with the stubby, if you have some odd, crazy thing where you have to have super stupidly compact, again, Ignoring the 36 and 72 tooth, these are identical ratchets, but look at that height profile difference. Yeah, that's where the Z series would come into play. Now, what this one's going to do is actually go to work. And you're thinking like, hey, what are you going to do with that at work, you know? I thought you were like 3/8 and a half inch there. I am, but here's the thing. So much of what I do at work is I'm choked up on the ratchet like this, okay? I don't come out here, yes, for leverage to either like tighten or break it free. Yeah, my hand's way out here from A to B, B being the farthest extremity from the anvil. But when I'm sitting here running something in that's got clean threads or running something out that's got clean threads, my hand isn't down here, you know, taking an eternity. I'm up here just because it's faster, right? If I could spin it out by hand, I would do that. You get to a point where you kind of have to, or it's, you know, just easier to. But a lot of times, you know, like the threads are good, but they're not that good, and so you just run something out. This, I think, is going to serve me beautifully well at work in those situations, or at least I hope it does. I could conceivably take this one, but I've kind of grown partial to it. Again, being something that I didn't buy, that was sent out by mistake, you know, it's gonna keep its stay here. So right here we've got a standard shallow. All my 3/8 shallows at work, it will be proto minus, well, the impacts are too, so yeah. And then the nut drips though would be Koken. That's kind of another selling point there. So at work, Koken wise, I will have this guy, and I have the 3/8 long flex head, and I think that's it for Koken ratchets at work. So I really wish they'd make a locking flex head. That would be great. Well, I can't say what I have at work currently. Starts with an S and ends with an on, and I've had the video made for probably over a year now, and I can't release it because we just never get to 10,000 subscribers. Maybe by the time this video goes live, we'll be there. But yeah, that thing, I smash my hand all the time with it. And it just randomly, you know, like unlocks. It doesn't really ever lock on me, but it unlocks a lot, which is kind of strange. You think it could rock both ways. But I think Koken is a company that could probably execute that very well, and it's kind of sad that they haven't entered that space yet. I don't know if they're going to, and if they do, I hope it's 3/8 first. But yeah, that's the plan with this one. So two very familiar ratchets again. I want to say this is 36 tooth. I'm pretty confident when it came in, and I was like, what the heck is this thing? Why do I have it? I want to say it was 36. Just, I don't use it a ton at all, okay? Because, again, it's stubby, and that's not really my thing, but they wear very, very well. Again, this isn't going to be anything near, I think that quarter honestly has more use than this one. But just since we have that there, and it's a little older and been in service versus something brand new, I can kind of show you that again right here. If I grab our cord drive. Yeah, I've used this one a lot, even though it's dainty. I told you I would force myself to use it, and we have. But yeah, I don't know, some of that would like wipe off if I wanted to, but like what I'm trying to convey is it's still square, there's nothing crazy happening, it still sounds fantastic. I mean, there's not many ratchets you can do that with that don't just like, woo, especially something light and small. You try to do this with certain ratchets, instead of it just basically freestanding like that, it's gonna like come way up here and it's like clink. So Koken, definitely some good stuff. Really, one of my only complaints with Koken is just the daintiness here. And again, that's personal preference. I totally, before people harp on me, I'm absolutely 100% aware that this could be very beneficial, and you'll regret having a chonk for a more comfortable handle or something. But just one of those things, right? So yeah, these were both stupid good deals. There was the Koken sale. A lot of times Mike has a Koken sale, and it's literally just select Koken items. I don't know if he just has too many in inventory, if he's like, yeah, I don't really sell this one often. I think a lot of it was when the 72 tooth stuff came, and then the quick release came. It's sort of like you've got all these like very, very similar products, but there's the Koken sale, there was a warehouse sale. We cashed in, and I think we finally caught up on our DRPD stuff, so pretty cool there. But yeah, this guy, I do have some plans. They might not go over well, but I have plans. We're going to see what happens there, and at some point maybe we will fix our situation and get the quick release that I think will match the 3/8. I'm pretty sure the 3/8 was quick release. I don't really use the fixed heads that much. It's something, the 1/2 inch, yes, because it's all I've got from Koken, but the 3/8 I just constantly go for either the standard flex or the long flex, and it is what it is. I do use the fixed head, just not near as often. So I think it's in part because I started with flex heads, and then everything I got was a flex. And so it's just kind of what you get accustomed to. But yeah, I don't use this very often, but it is nice to have. And again, at work, especially at work, almost everything I have outside of the Hazettes is like a long handle. You know, the Mac Flex is 1/4x9. The one that ends in an on is like a 13-ish, you know, locking flex. The Koken is a long flex. Really, the only standard I have is Hazette, I think, in the 3/8 drive. So I'm gonna see. I'll get to use this tomorrow quite a bit. I've been like working, geez, if I would ever not get interrupted by people like selling stuff, and then I always have to load and unload freight, and that like dictates my lunchtime and crap. But if I could ever just like work, you know, uninterrupted, I'd probably have this done tomorrow. But as it is, it's probably tomorrow into part of Tuesday. So the good news is this guy is going to see some action, and I'll get to determine if it was a great purchase or I should have passed on it. But at $60, it's a win, because again, there will be some weird situation, not often probably, but there will be some weird situation where I'm like, I have a ratchet that'll fit there, and I can go grab this thing, and it's awesome. So what I want to know from you, what do you think of Koken's 3/8 stubbies? Are you sold on them? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Are you indifferent? Do you have it for a certain application at work or in whatever you do? Maybe you're into 3rd-gen Camaros, you know, and there's like, hey, that's the only thing. It's perfect because of the low back drag. It does it great. Is it a task at work where the stubby is all that physically fits in the confinement, and you save so much time being able to spin that in faster than cobbling up extensions and, you know, faintly turning out here a couple degrees at a time? Whatever your thoughts there, let me know. Similarly, on the quarter, what did you do with your Koken quarter? Did you go standard flex, long flex, standard fixed, long fixed? Do you have a combination of all? Do you find yourself, now that there is the quick release, do you lean quick release? Do you just stick with what you started bringing in? If you're newer to Koken, are you just buying quick release? You know, maybe you've got like your Snap-on and Mac and everything is non-quick release, and you're like, well, this is great, low back drag and, you know, quick release or locking, however you want to call it. Whatever you want to talk about, feel free. But once again, sinister plans for this guy, and that guy will start getting a workout as early as probably 8:30 tomorrow morning. So we'll see how it goes. That said, I'm going to go move my fan, finish hopefully drying up some water. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a little something. Again, fantastic prices on these deals. Again, if you are not on the DRPD newsletter, again, am I special? Absolutely. At least that's what I tell myself. But I find out about all this stuff through emails, right? So if you want to do the same thing, you can. You just simply sign up for the email. You don't get emailed very often. It's not like some of those companies like Eastwood. Not dropping any names there. You know, you get like 8 emails a day, it seems like. When you get something from DRPD, it's important, and it's usually cool. Granted, you know, it might be the PB Swiss bike tool, and you're like, what? I don't care. That's all you're going to hear. But sometimes it's like, hey, everything's 20% off. Hey, Koken, everything's on sale. Hey, I've got an overstock of Koken. You can get yourself some pretty sweet deals. One of the things I like best about DRPD, they don't necessarily like throw that information around. You usually have a day or two by the email list before, if he posts it at all, say to like Garage Journal or social media. I've been able to come in and get the good stuff, and it's sold out now, suckers. So a lot of companies are the opposite of that. They post on Instagram, they post on their TikTok or whatever they do, and they don't send out an email, right? I hate that. I like old school, give me the email, and especially appreciated when people that take the time to go on your newsletter list that you appreciate get kind of a slight start on everyone else that might find out through social media. So again, use that information to your own detriment or benefit, but the newsletter is your friend, and you can get some pretty sweet deals. Or just check the website if you don't want to deal with any of that. If you hate getting emailed at all, go to DRPD, every day, a couple of days when you have a chance, and boom, you'll see the notifications usually up at the top. Take advantage of it, have a list ready, and just if you wanted this Stubby but it wasn't on sale but your quarter fixed was, boom, buy it. Patiently wait for the Stubby. Well, it's like I said, never really disappointed with anything I brought in from Koken. It's all performed beautifully. It's all available at stupid good prices, and they're just great ratchets. So going to work, gonna go somewhere. More on that later. But once again, if you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you do that, you ring the bell, you jump your charger across the creek, YouTube just might notify you. We got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, I do hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a little something, and most importantly, hope you have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.